Hey, y'all, Pastor Emily here with another episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is far, far sweeter. I am here again today with my buddy Mike, and we are here to follow up last week's video, which, if you had a chance, you noticed the sound did not come out the way we anticipated. By the way, we are not complete losers who didn't know that that's what it sounded like, while we were actually recording it, like, oh, how did you not notice that this was so goofy? No, we heard it fine. And then when it got posted, whatever happened, the recording, all the talking between computers and different platforms and whatnot, it just goofed it all up. I hope you take an opportunity to sit through it and suffer through it, because there's some really, really good things in there. Yeah, Mike's not sure, but I'm pretty sure Mike sat through it to listen to it. There's at least 5-6 views on it, so somebody looked at it. But we are back again, and the reason is, if you didn't get a chance to hear it on the first episode that we did together, basically, there's a connection here for our desire to sort of see America come together, see Christians on with different political beliefs talking to one another, getting along, and sorting through some of the differences we have, recognizing that actually we agree on a lot of things, not just Christians, but sort of like 80% of Americans actually agree on a lot of things. We got a video that we're going to try and share with you in just a minute. You probably see it up on the screen share. We didn't want to mess with anything to make sure it's all good. We got it working, so don't touch any, don't break anything. So that's where we are. Real quick, I'll give a little bit of background on sort of my political history, and have Mike kind of give his background, kind of how we got to where we are, and then watch the video and talk through some things. I grew up in a very conservative family. They were politically active. I remember being like 10 or 11 or something like that, and knocking on doors with my grandparents. I don't know what we were doing, passing out literature, collecting signatures, something like that, for the Republican Party out in Suffolk County, New York. I was on Long Island, eastern part of Long Island. And just a lot of lively conversations about things, and kind of growing up in that, I took it in. My grandfather was a Marine. He served in Korea, had a Purple Heart, had a few other honors as well, and so very much a patriotic, conservative American. In fact, when I was in high school, I got the first day of homeroom. They have you stand up for the pledge, and then you have a moment of silence. You sit down, and they do the announcements. For whatever reason, our homeroom teacher, the homeroom teacher I ended up having for 4 years, after that first day, announcements are finished, she says, they can't make you stand. And after that, as you can imagine, every single teenager that, heard that essentially took the opportunity to sit through the pledge, the moment of silence, and then all the announcements, except me. I actually stood up 4 years of high school. I mean, maybe there was like a couple of days here or there where I was like finishing a homework assignment or something, and I just kept going through it all. But I stood by myself. There was one kid in front of me. He stood every once in a while for the Pledge of Allegiance.
You guys were like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, man.
Sort of, yeah. Except it wasn't so much Jesus. Like, I'd feel much more confident about your statement if it was for Jesus, which it was, in a sense, the moment of silence. But so that was it. And then I actually was going to run for president. I had calculated that I would be 35 years old in 2016, and I would run for president. There's a button somewhere out there that somebody made with my name on it, like Emil for president. And that's what I had thought when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. Obviously, I ended up taking a different path. But then in 2006, I want to say it is, listening to maybe the State of the Union, George W. Bush, or somebody, I forget what it was. I was kind of like, what? He doesn't sound very Christian. Like some of the things he's saying, maybe they're the right policy, but it doesn't sound like Jesus to me. Right? Like it didn't sound like Jesus. And then the Republicans had the House, the Senate, the White House, and they couldn't pass some of the most popular Republican bills. I don't remember what it was exactly, but I distinctly remember my dad screaming at the television about how basically they were all the same. And so I kind of got to this place where I was like, you know what? I mean, I still have a lot of those leanings, but at the same time, it just seems like there's more important things to do than to get sucked into the tribalism, to get sucked into the animosity between left and right. And again, I left that sort of behind when I went to seminary. I made a choice, and I said, you know, the kingdom of God is far more important, and the kingdom of God doesn't operate within earthly governments the way that we often think. And, you know, kind of making my focus the church and ministry was sort of a decision that said, hey, this is far more important than what's happening in Washington. So that was sort of where I ended up. 2020 was a big, just monumental year in so many different ways. I'm sure for anybody that's listening, I mean, you went through a lot that year as well. I definitely remember struggling with, you know, knowing what was actually true and what wasn't true from all sides. Naturally skeptical, perhaps, about or distrustful about all people, especially people in authority and in power. I'm a good American in that sense, just generally being skeptical of those things, and being upset about some things, you know, the president was saying at the time and doing. But also then we ended up with George Floyd, and I ended up spending a lot of time listening and learning and growing in my understanding of what, you know, our Black Americans have dealt with in my lifetime. So not just in history, like the distant past. But then the more I did that, and the more I got plugged in with a couple of groups that I was trying to be a part of some sort of racial reconciliation or healing, the more I found myself dealing with people that wanted me to do absolutely nothing except sit there, shut up, acknowledge that I had no role to play other than to basically be like, I had to agree 100%, be subservient, be that humble beggar white person, and I left that behind. So at that point, I'd essentially gone all in on the right and all in on the left at various points, and they both disappointed me in like colossal ways that essentially made me say, okay, we need government, we need politics. We probably should have some level of involvement. I don't know. I still haven't quite figured out what that actually looks like. But they are not the main mechanism for change, for transformation, for the movement of the kingdom of God in the world. Are they a piece of it? Yes. But ultimately, on the ground, in the hearts and minds of God's people, in that's where it starts. So that was sort of my winding journey, and getting to a point where, you know what, Jesus is still number one. I will happily bow the knee at Jesus, but I will absolutely not bow the knee to any politician, any political party. And maybe what we've been missing has been people willing to do that, willing to say, to their own team. Wait, that's not right. Not the other team, but our own team. Anyway, so I don't know if that was short exactly, but
Yeah, yeah. So my journey kind of started. First political thing I remember is with my dad. He really loved politics, and we were watching Jimmy Carter debate Ronald Reagan, and I was just enamored with Ronald Reagan and how good a speaker he was, and he was so funny, and Jimmy Carter, despite his good character attributes and stuff, was not really a match for the debate skills of Ronald Reagan. Probably nobody.
yeah.
Maybe Trump and Obama might be in the same league, but yeah. So and my dad was very staunch Reagan supporter, so that's what I was. And then when I got older in college, then it became more liberal. And then I remember rooting for Bill Clinton to beat George Bush Sr. And I think back about that now, and I was just like, why? Just like George Bush Sr. was a good man, and he had integrity, and he was wise. But that wasn't enough. He looked at his watch during a debate, so he's out. So and if from the left's perspective, like almost nobody has done more damage to the poor, to people in prison, to people of color than Bill Clinton. Like, it was catastrophic. He decimated the welfare protections, the social safety net. Like, no Republican could have got away with any of that. And he was probably did more to disadvance the things that we want than anybody else. So yeah, fast forward to George Floyd. I was very much like a Facebook social justice warrior kind of thing. But like when George Floyd happened, and then all of the protests and stuff in DC, like where it was like several days, and I think it might have been like a couple weeks or 3 weeks or something. Like every day I'd see it, and I'd be like, I should be there. I should be doing this. But like I was too scared. Like I was basically like hiding behind my big screen TV in my basement. And it's like I wasn't ready, and I didn't have any friends. It's like I wasn't ready for that moment kind of thing. And then there's a pastor that's kind of there's an organization that kind of followed after Martin Luther King called the Poor People's Campaign, and their leader is Reverend Barber, and they actually covered it on regular TV. They did like a rally or something, and then they had the number on the bottom, and then he said, like, if all this stuff going on bothers you, then call this number. So like that's what I did. And then the people who called me were like United Workers, and so that's how I kind of started doing stuff with them. But it took a long time for me to like be able to like do stuff in real life that wasn't just like posting on Facebook. So yeah, and just I was a Christian the whole time, but like you want to talk about idolatry, like my idolatry of Donald Trump was like off the charts, which you would not think would be the case since I was a liberal Democrat, and I basically thought like he was like the most all-encompassing threat and moral evil that existed. That's what I was getting from my stuff that I was receiving on, and so like I literally felt like he was more powerful and more consequential and had more to do with whether I would be safe or my kids would be safe or whether or not the things I care about would happen. Like Jesus was pretty much irrelevant, because
yeah.
It's like he's gonna, like, you can pray to him and you can read your Bible, and those are good things for like your mental health or like your personal growth and advancement. But like as far as like doing things in the real world, like Trump seemed like way more powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like that all continued till probably maybe like 6 to 9 months ago, where I almost kind of had like a nervous breakdown because I was posting stuff about ICE and everything. And I still care very strongly about that, but like I was posting about Facebook on it and trying to get people like, but like the people I would talk to, like if they were on the other side, I just make them mad. And then if they're on my side, they'd like get mad at me. They wouldn't understand what I was trying to say because it's like it's very important to me, like when you're trying to talk to the other side, that you represent their views fairly and you admit when there's like logical fallacies and things that are just being assumed that we all agree on that are basically the same kind of thing. So like for instance, immigration versus mass incarceration. I live in Hagerstown, Maryland. They're putting in an ICE facility like a couple miles away from me that's going to cost like $212 million. And that really scares me that they're going to be here in my town. And but like also in my town is the Hagerstown prison complex, which is I don't know how many it is, but I looked at it, it's like 15,000 men in there, maybe possibly some women, but 15,000. And it's it looks like they're like ginormous like barn, like they're like circles, like cylinders, and like it looks like something from like Independence Day or like like World War II or something. And they just go. There's like 15 of them, and like I did this prison ministry thing, and we went in there, and it was like, holy cow! Like I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember the Matrix, but the part where like he was in the pod and he looked around and he saw all the other pod people, it kind of felt like that. Like they're literally like 3 miles away from me.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, I care about ICE, but this is mass incarceration. There's like, we've just sort of like, that's become normal now. And like we are trying to like, and the Republican states are actually the ones that are really spearheading this of trying to figure out ways to save money and be more efficient and not be putting people in there who are not dangerous. So yeah, a lot of the innovation in prison reform is coming from like Republican states. So yeah, so basically, I had to get off Facebook and I had to just like chill out and yeah, it's really weird for me because like personally, like his style and kind of his his shtick. I don't want to say shtick, but like one of my favorite comedians is Andy Kaufman. He was like Latka on Taxi.
Yeah.
And like he would do like these anarchistic things where he would antagonize the audience. And he had this skit called where he played this character called Tony Clifton, and he would put like really heavy makeup on, and he would go to like a lounge or a nightclub or something, and he would just like for half an hour, you just like insult the audience. It was like hilarious, and it was like this whole thing where he had a friend that would also do it who would wear the makeup, so you couldn't tell, so you didn't know if it was really Andy Kaufman or if it was his friend, but people would come there to see Andy Kaufman, and then this Tony Clifton guy would show up and just make fun of everybody, like and be really mean. I don't know why, but I just think it's really funny.
Well, it's real funny as long as you're not in the audience.
Yeah, but I'm kind of I'm afraid of every time I say something. I'm always when I walk away, I'm always like, did they take that wrong? Did I say it wrong? Maybe, and like I'll really like obsess about like I hope I didn't say something bad. Maybe that's why that appeals to me. It's just like he's intentionally just like saying the worst possible thing. So like I do like that when Trump does that, where he feels like somebody's being a pompous ass and Trump's gonna just like, well, I know everybody's gonna think this is bad, but I'm gonna say you're a pompous ass and I don't care. And like I love that.
Well, I've tried to tell people when given the opportunity, I'm born and raised in New York, Long Island, New York. So not the city, but everybody on Long Island either grew up in the city or their parents are from the city or they work in the city, and you can't get to Long Island without going through New York City. You got to take a train. You got to fly into one of the airports. There's just driving over the bridges and through the tunnel, and there's something symbolic about that. Long Island, I think, embodies New York culture with, some of the edges sort of rounded off is what I would say, but underneath there's still a very common thread there. And the news in New York, on Long Island, it's New York City news. I mean, that's what you're watching. They have one channel that does Long Island. Well, maybe that's different now. I don't know. It's been a while since I've lived there, but the major news networks that are there, they are in New York City, and they report heavily on what happens in New York City, right? It's very little about Long Island unless you get Long Island News 12 Long Island. So when I see him, it's a lot of it is just that, and it's just people in New York say the most ridiculous, outlandish things, and it's okay. And just proof of that is, I have spent now almost 16 years as a pastor. I spent 4 years before that at a seminary in the Midwest and in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the South. And it's taken me this long to learn to bite my tongue, to learn that, oh, wait, people don't really talk like this. And I mean, I did it in a pastorly way, right? So it wasn't quite like watching Donald Trump, but it definitely was not what most people are used to. They're not used to you. If they ask you, hey, what's wrong? You say, well, this is what's wrong. Don't we all see it? Isn't it obvious? People don't actually like that, even if they say they like that.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. How do I look in this outfit? Yeah. You don't really want to know.
Yeah, you don't really want to know. Exactly. So I think there's a lot of that going on, and there's definitely, sort of, and I don't know, the higher educated, elitist type people, upper class people that are really freaked out simply because he's just, I mean, he does sound crazy to them. He does. And let's be honest.
I don't read Truth Social because anything on there, he does, the stuff on there is scary to me. But just when he's ripping in front of a crowd, I enjoy that part of him. I don't agree with a lot of his policies, but I think people on the other side, if their favorite player, it's like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. It's you might be a Celtics fan or you might be a Lakers fan, but you can still like the other team's players.
Yeah. Well, theoretically you should, but that's not the case really today. And by the way, I try to pay as little attention as possible to what's going on. I think it's hard to avoid it completely, and every once in a while I do okay, what is happening? But there's so much manipulation and so much distortion of facts on all sides. I feel like anytime something happens, I have to give a minimum 48 hours or better 72 hours before I ever even try to form an opinion, that I will inevitably find out within that window that whatever the initial thing was that I thought, that's not what it was, or it was sort of that, but it was also sort of something else, and it's far more muddy and complicated, and it's not reason for instant outrage. It's a sad turn of events, something we may have to deal with and wrestle with, but not hey, let me immediately hate this group of people, the other side, whatever it happens to be. So
yeah, it's if you look at the Congress and how everything works, you're gonna have to have some votes more than what you have yourself. You're not gonna be able to just win with your own team.
Yeah. Yep. I think it was actually intended to be that way.
Yeah. That's pretty smart.
Our founders definitely were smarter than we give them credit for. I think for sure their faith was a big part of what happened, what took shape. And I do think that for the most part, not all of them, they were praying men. They were people that had wisdom and experience and education and lived through all kinds of things back where they had come from before they came here. And that all kind of led to crafting this document, a recognition that people in power are evil, but also mobs are evil. So like the tyranny of the majority is actually a thing. Like,
yeah, there's a book about that. It's called Frankenstein.
Woo! Frankenstein's monster. Okay. That's right.
Let's go get the thing at the edge of the town.
So you had mentioned something before we got started that I forget exactly how you said it. I think it was something about the left not having faith kind of as a core tenet.
Yeah, like if like the politics has kind of become our national religion, it seems like. So it's like if you have a religion without forgiveness, then once someone has violated it to a certain degree, there is no remedy besides just either shunning them or getting rid of them or possibly killing them. Mm-hmm. So it can take a pretty dark turn. Like, I'm not sure, but I think the French Revolution was like a liberal revolution. And then like some people were getting killed, like that were actually part of it, but weren't as gung-ho as the other people. So they got killed too. Mm. So it's just like a human thing of like, you're not one of my tribe and I don't trust you and you're part of the bad people. And it's like when we're under threat or we are afraid, everything gets like real binary.
Yeah. So say that again. A religion without forgiveness. What was it?
I can't remember.
Sorry.
But yeah, like there's only retribution. Like where else? What are you gonna do? Like there's no way to like come back from that.
Yeah, because inevitably we're gonna screw up, right? We're not gonna fit. We're not gonna appease whatever our God is, whether it's United States, politics as a a mechanism for government, and our political parties, our favorite politicians, whatever, right? We're not going to keep them happy.
Yeah. So like as an example, like I went to the ICE protest in my town because we don't like the people that were at the protest, like we don't want ICE coming to our town and as far as the facility is concerned. And like I took my Dietrich Bonhoeffer book and I was like holding that, and then like there was somebody else like made a sign and they weren't using it, so like I used that, and then like we're talking and people drive by and they honk and stuff. And anyway, I was the people I was talking with, there was one like older lady that was kind of like a church lady, and then there was a younger person that was autistic like me, and then just talking to them, and we were doing chants. Like some of them were more aggressive than some of the other and then I said, okay, well I have a chant, I don't think you guys are gonna like it. And then they said, okay, what is it? I said, God forgives ICE, you can too. God forgives ICE, you can. And they looked at me like, what the actual hell? Like they got mad at me. And then like the church lady was like, I understand what you're trying to say, but we're not there yet. Maybe give it a couple years. And then the other lady that wasn't a person of faith or anything, like she had no idea. Like she just looked at me like, what are you saying? That makes like, what? But the church lady knew what I was trying to do. And then, so then my response to her was like, I understand, but like the human heart is very tricky when it comes to like who should die and who should live. And we tend to put a lot of people in the die bucket very fast.
Yes. Well, and I I think I made a comment to you one time we were talking about stuff like this, and the way you're describing this, you have a clear understanding of humanity. You know, we mentioned the founders a little bit. You know, they seem to understand this about humanity. You know, people in power, but also people not in power. Like, there is no one good. No one is good except God alone. That's Jesus' words in Scripture. And the way I said it at the time was like, I feel like liberals often live in fantasy land. You know, we were having a debate kind of back and forth. That doesn't mean conservatives don't also live in fantasy land. But for sure, if you take out Jesus, if you take out faith, you don't have this. And by the way, that's a growing problem on the left and the right, that there's been a lack of faith, a lack of active practicing Christian faith on both sides, which is dangerous because it takes out, it makes the government and the politics.
Yeah, it fills the vacuum.
God. Something.
Yeah.
There is, nature abhors a vacuum. So you get rid of that, and something's got to get sucked in to replace it. And by and large, it's government, it's politics, it's this endless stream of information and this focus on it, right? And that's not good. It's not good at all. But the Fantasyland comment was, it plays into that. If it is our God, and we don't have the hope of eternal life where Jesus is going to redeem and restore all of creation, and we're going to live in the new heavens and the new earth, and it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be awesome, there's going to be a great king. He's going to be the epitome of a benevolent dictator, right? Because he's the king of the universe, and he doesn't ask for our opinions, and yet he has demonstrated that he loves us more than we love ourselves. Like, he gave fully of himself so that on that day when he is fully and finally and firmly placed into his role as, king over the new heavens and the new earth, we're going to be
not in a Christian nationalist kind of way.
Not in a Christian nationalist kind of way. Remember, like, on the last day when he, right, not when a politician occupies the office, not when a mere human does, but on the last day, that is the hope that I have. And so I can look at the world around me kind of falling apart and not get so worked up about it that I begin to fall into all kinds of ridiculous ideas, or I begin to try to take matters into my own hands, or, like, I need a certain thing to happen or be fixed, or because if I can't fix this world, then I'm stuck with a crappy world, right? I am not stuck with a crappy world. I am blessed graciously with the gift of a perfect world. I just don't get to see it yet. And so when you...
Yeah, that was Harriet Tubman's thing. That was she was a strong believer in Christ, and like United Workers, like, she's kind of their mascot because she was like from Baltimore, and like she was a strong believer, and that's what motivated her to be an abolitionist. So a lot of times people will say, well, you guys just believe in like the pie in the sky and you don't really want to do anything down here to help people. It's like, that wasn't true, because Harriet Tubman, that's why she felt safe to take those kind of risks and to work that hard when there wasn't going to be an immediate reward for herself. I mean, like, in order to do stuff like that, you have to trust that there's some kind of meaning. Now, I'm like 40% atheist most of the time. So I'm not saying that people that don't believe in God don't have, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just countering the thing of like, you guys believe in God, so you believe God's going to fix everything. So you're like, don't do anything down here because it's a waste of time. We're not saying that. We're just saying like be like Harriet Tubman, be like George Washington, like be like someone who is going to do what is right and fight for what's right, but not like, it's not the end of the world if you lose.
You need Christ to keep you from becoming the oppressor.
Yes.
Because there's I go back to this quote often. There's a guy, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was in a Russian gulag. He's got some writings, the Gulag Archipelago, And there's this one story in there where he talks about how he was like, there's this one day where he's either witnessing or experiencing the oppression of his prison guards. And he noticed, I mean, not right away, but he began to fantasize about what he would do as soon as he had the opportunity, as soon as the roles were reversed, as soon as the rescue came, right? And the line that he has, he says, you know, when he caught it, when he realized, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? The line is, that's when I realized that the line dividing good and evil runs right through the center of every human heart. Right? It's we got to wrestle with that. And just real quick,
like, I can't afford it.
You can't afford.
Like, I can't. Like, I've got like mental health and addiction issues. Like if I get out of balance on that stuff, like I will, like, something bad could happen to me. You know, like I can't afford to be like using all my resources on something that I don't have control over.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if I hate Trump. Like, it doesn't hurt him. It's only hurting me.
There you go.
Like, I would use that energy to advocate for policies that you think are good instead of what he is doing. Like, you hating Trump isn't hurting him. It's not helping anyone either. It's just a waste of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, there's no point.
So just before I lose track of this, I want to get back to something you just said. I think you're totally right. I mean, that is literally how people often speak about forgiveness. Is it's not who's was it Socrates? You know, drank.
Oh yeah,
hemlock or something like that.
Yeah.
So unforgiveness, hatred, animosity, bitterness, all this stuff is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die, right? So that's not how that works. But back to what you said earlier, people often think that having this hope of eternity, having this hope of Christ's actual kingdom coming and invading once and for all the kingdoms of this earth.
It is a kingdom of forgiveness.
It is a kingdom of forgiveness. But it doesn't mean that it takes away our power or our ability or our willingness to do anything good for this world. In fact, there's this C.S. Lewis quote that I pulled up. He says, C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, apologist in the Christian church, defender of the Christian faith, explainer of the Christian faith. He was an atheist who tried to debunk Christianity, and the more he dug into it, the more he realized how much it made sense and was necessary for civilization and all that kind of stuff. But he's got this quote. It says, if you read history, you will find that the Christians who did the most for the present world were precisely those who thought most of the next. I think there's another line similar to that. Aim at heaven, and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth, and you will get neither. So, yeah, Harry Tubman was right. With Jesus, you take risks. You're willing to put your own life on the line, your own wealth, your own comfort and safety and security for the good of others. And if it is taken from you, justly or unjustly, you don't, theoretically, of course, I mean, there are plenty of people calling on Christ that don't seem to act like this, but, you know, theoretically, the idea is you don't return evil for evil, right? This was what made the movement, the Martin Luther King's movement, the civil rights movement in the 60s successful, was precisely that they didn't retaliate. They accepted the punishment according to the law, even if they believed it to be an unjust law. They believed that suffering the consequences of breaking an unjust law was actually how you broke that. you eventually cracked the power of it, not by
Oh,
refusing to
yeah.
accept the consequences, not by
Yeah.
thumbing your nose or flipping the bird at,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know.
because then you're just another rebel. You know, like it's like the thieves on the cross versus Jesus.
Yeah. So we had this video that we spent a lot of time trying to get to work.
Yeah, let's
So,
watch it.
so we better watch it. But this sort of, we want to bring people together, and we recognize there are a lot of forces ripping us apart. And this was a great little reel on Instagram that we came across. Let's take a listen.
You voted, then some billionaire that's
I got to get it back.
influencing media narratives, even.
Yeah, it's hard to get it to be at the beginning.
Yeah, so we'll let it. That's like the
joys of Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
To love your neighbor, you need to love people.
Yeah, I might as well just maybe watch it and just watch it twice or something.
Engineered, it is. This is where it picks up, I think.
Okay.
Left, you're being shown
the
the stupidest dumbasses on the right that could possibly exist. You have no other choice in your mind but to think all of these people are insane. All of them are absolute idiots. And if you're on the right and you scroll through your feed, and you're going to see the absolute dipshit morons on the left. And they're going to show you the most crazy psycho people possible over and over and over and over again until you say, this is the left. You walk into a Walmart, you're going to see people that voted in a way that you didn't vote. And they're not breaking shit. They're not screaming. They're not psycho. And they probably want the same things that you do. You have more in common with these people than you think. They want to feed their kids. They want to pay lower taxes. They want to feel safe in their own home. They want to chill. They want to come home at the end of the day and put their feet up and have some time off. They want to have time with their family. You have more in common with all those people that didn't vote the way you voted than some billionaire that's influencing media narratives. Even if that billionaire votes the same way you do, you still have more in common with that person that voted the other way that you see every day in your life. That's not crazy. That is absolute engineered reality. I'm not sitting here trying to say, oh, you need to love your neighbor, you need to love people. I'm just saying the hatred that people are feeling for the other side is engineered. It is not real, and it's very difficult for people to admit that I have been manipulated. If you're on...
Yeah. So how would you react to that in 2 minutes or less?
I think the thing is, like, it's like if you take like me fighting Trump or me fighting Republicans out of my life, like if I don't have that as part of my life, as part of what gives me meaning, then I'm just like a guy in Hagerstown, like trying to get work as a, you know, graphic designer and with some kids who's kind of like so making it, you know. But if I'm like part of this resistance against, you know, the powers that be and stuff, then it's like, even if I'm insignificant, I'm part of this epic struggle. And it's like, you're just a regular guy.
So, you know, we talked about this power vacuum. When we take faith out, and actually what I would say is that our culture has eroded the Christian faith and its influence in people's lives, even people that are Christian, I would say. So that even, I would say, the most committed Christians today don't look anything like the most committed Christians 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Like, I would say that the level of commitment to Christianity, to Jesus, is far lower even among the best of the best in our culture, in American culture. So something is happening where even when we have Christians going to church, we have Christians going to church who have, you know, Jesus isn't here anymore. He's here, and that makes it real easy for something else to go here. You know, we don't have people reading their Bibles at the same clip. We don't have people studying the Word. We don't have people meditating on the word. We don't have people just sort of sitting in prayer, in quiet contemplation, in trying to get every little last ounce that they can out of a passage or a time in prayer or out of God. We don't have that the same way. We have too many distractions. And so even Christians, even me, even you, anyone watching this, right? We are sucked into this powerful force that is politics. And the things that Jesus occupies, what you were just getting at, is this search for meaning and purpose. Tim Keller's actually got a great series of videos that he did at Oxford University maybe about 10 years ago. And he talked about 5 different topics. It's called Uncover. It's the Oxford Student Union or something like that from about 10 years ago. And he talked about these 5 things that humans need. We all need. And he was trying to make the case at a secular university as to why Jesus was the best source of that, essentially. But one of them was meaning and purpose. One of them was satisfaction. One of them is hope. One of them was, I don't remember all 5 of them, but you clicked on that one, right, about how I feel so much better about myself, basically, if I'm fighting this war against, evil doers that are invading my neighborhood or something like that,
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there isn't evil at work. There absolutely is. But when we get co-opted by the evil, instead of responding to evil with good, as Scripture commands us, we just become part of the problem. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that good enough for now, for today? You got to go, I think, right?
So, yep.
So
yeah, it's fine.
if Mike and I can have a conversation like this and we can recognize that we agree on a lot more than we realized, then you can recognize at some point that you probably agree with people more than you realize, that there are people that you might be looking at a certain way and thinking of a certain way. If we could actually talk, all right, there's a growing number of independents every day, 60, 70, 80% of people, they're moving in that direction because of this polarization, because of the algorithms, because of the way social media allows us to paint each other in these broad strokes. So turn it off, turn off the notifications, shut down the app, look at your family, your kids, your friends, your neighbors, just grab a beer or a cup of coffee or something like that and just see them as humans. We're all trying to do basically the same things, and I think that's a start for us to avoid a national divorce. So that's where it felt like we're heading every now and then. It gets pretty bad. So
Yeah. Exercise in futility.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're still going to be stuck together. Nobody else wants us, so we can't leave.
They don't.
I guess you can go back to Iceland.
They don't want us either.
Oh, okay.
We're too American. We're too intense. I am way more American than I am anything else. So born and raised,
just like, can you guys calm down?
Yeah. For those who don't know, my dad's from Iceland. I actually was able to get dual citizenship a couple of years ago. But I am such a full-blooded American. It's unbelievable. But anyway, great to be with you, Mike. And you can hang in there if you want. We can chat real quick after. And to the rest of you, great to be with you. Catch up with you soon. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is far sweeter.